the person you're with does not feel respected by you, it doesn't matter how much you feel like you're respecting the person. Be honest, like that. What's up, world? You are welcome to Nesteli. Today we are discussing I Almost Ruined My Marriage by Eno Jerry. This book is, I don't think I've ever seen any book that is that simple. With this book, you're going to get a very simplistic way of handling relationship problems in your life. Even though she was coming from, is a true life story about her building and taking care of her home well enough through her attitude, but it actually affects every form of relationship. This book is a book you want to read if you have issues with things like anger, resentment, bitterness. You are always assuming, But she goes on to tell the story of she and her husband and how her upbringing, her environment, who she was, had made her to become this person, and she believed that she was perfect and she was fine and she was always right. She got married, and then after a while her marriage started taking its turn, and then she had to do a look within herself to be able to figure out what she was doing wrong, and she found greatly how much at fault, I put fault in quotes, she was of what was happening in her marriage. So this book is really, really wonderful. Now, Eno Jerry is a pastor here in Nigeria. Actually, I think Umuahia to be exact. She's one of those kind of women, like I've met her once or twice. She has an amazing smile, wonderful lady, and she's one of those people that most of the time, the whole time when you read this book, you don't see this. You cannot compute what she's saying to who she is as a person. But that's the thing about life. She's generally very outspoken. She grew up believing that she was going to be a lawyer because everybody's like, oh, she's always standing her ground. She must always, her idea of conversation is mostly arguments. So they're going to like, oh, you have to be. So nobody actually told her the truth about herself. And then she gets married to this wonderful man of God who she loved a lot. And then suddenly, years into the marriage, they couldn't even talk to each other. The man would just keep quiet because it's like walking on eggshells. He couldn't point out some things he was doing wrong. She was doing wrong. He couldn't tell her, see, this thing was not okay. He couldn't, because once lady flares up, she'll get angry, yell at him, and walk out, sometimes with other people present. So she had to learn from her growing up. She said in her home, growing up, she believed that argument is part of her. It's not conversation. We sit down, we shout. It encouraged arguments, it encouraged confrontation and all that. But then she marries this person, and then she just assumed that by marrying this person is going to take her for who she is and everything, which honestly is good when you're married. But understand something, the idea isn't for you to remain the same from when you're married until you die. You have to get to a point where you know that you have to grow, and a lot of times you have to be very deliberate about it. And that's what she's trying to point out here. So things like, who is that? Sorry for the break. So things like assumption. She found out that a lot of times when her husband started keeping quiet a lot, stopped talking a lot, stopped communicating with her a lot, she just assumed that maybe he didn't like her anymore, he was upset with her, he hated her, or he regrets marrying her, all those kind of things. Assumption is quite a beast. It will kill and destroy your home. He said if you're going to draw a conclusion based upon that, if you're going to draw an emotional conclusion based upon things that actually happen, make sure that those things actually happen. Do not use assumptions. That's what she said about this. Now, this book is so simplistic. It is very simply written, right? She does this thing where she just talks about her story, then she does what she calls a dessert, where she points out a few things from the story that she just told you, what you can point out from it. Then she says God's word. Now, I did say she's a pastor, so yes, this is a Christian book. A lot of quotations of where God actually points to these particular things that was able to help her as a person. It's amazing. She talks about bitterness. Bitterness, I think everybody should know by now that bitterness is like an octopus, but instead of like 10 tentacles, it has like 50 tentacles, because it can move to several other things. Bitterness leads to envy. Bitterness stems from envy, from anger, and then can lead to so many things, to rage, to wrath, to sitting down and thinking of revenging and causing evil on someone else. That's what bitterness does. So she speaks a lot against handling bitterness. And the thing with bitterness is that it's one of those emotions that a lot of times you're not even willing to admit to yourself, talking more of admitting to someone else. So you have to get to a point where you sit down, ponder upon yourself, what you are doing wrong and how come you are bitter, how come it's affecting your decisions. Because it affects anything. In a marriage setting, you have children. They may be yours, they may not be yours, but there are children involved. If you have children involved in your life and you have bitterness, your children would know. It will affect the relationship that they have with you. It affects the way they see themselves as a person. It affects the kind of esteem that they have. So bitterness, as a man or a woman, things like bitterness, anger, wrath, assumption is such a problem. Assumption is such a problem. But really your attitude, then the importance of respect for each other. Do you understand? If the person you're with does not feel respected by you, it doesn't matter how much you feel like you're respecting the person. Be honest, like that's just how it is. If someone comes to you and tells you, I'm very, like, okay, if someone did you dirty, like in the office, someone spoke over you over a meeting, or took your idea, let me use that one, took your idea, went to the office and peddled it as theirs, and you're pained by it, then you confront the person. I told you about this. Why didn't you mention my name? And the person says something like, I beg, didn't I acknowledge you? I acknowledged you, but you were there and you weren't acknowledged. That's exactly the same thing with things like disrespect. Same thing with love. If you don't feel loved by someone, you speak up about it, and the person tells you, see, I love you, and that's that. Take it, and it's not very helpful. It doesn't help the relationship. And understand something when it comes to relationship. No matter how good a relationship is now, there's always a lot of work that can be done to make it better. Okay, so that's it on this book. This book is very simplistic, very small book. I read it on Okada Books. This is the first that I'm reading from Okada. But honestly, if you type Eno Jerry on Google, you would see anything you want to see about getting this book. It's available on Amazon. So if you're outside Nigeria, get it from Amazon, you'll be fine. Then you can check out, she has a website where you can get the e-copy, you can get the e-copy, you can get the hard copy, and just get it and enjoy it and whatever. But I got it from Okada Books, 500 naira book on Okada. I didn't even check how much it was on Amazon, but on Amazon, on Okada, it was 500 naira. So I just sat down and I read it on my phone, and I don't know, it's an amazing book. It's wonderful. So basically that's it on this book. Thank you so much for watching. Wishing you the best. We just finished February, right? Oh my god, February was beautiful, wasn't it? Hope you're taking care of yourself. Hope you're able to find time to love yourself. Now, just because the month of love is coming to an end does not mean that you have to stop loving yourself. Don't forget to love yourself. Don't forget to love your loved ones. And please remember that the people in your life do not know that they love you until they know that you love them, okay? So please take out time, let them know, let them hear it, let them know that you love them. Bye.